Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you hear us?
Yes. No.
You want to vote? We had first and second to approve the minutes. Do you approve or no? Am I loud enough, Chester?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah. It just came on.
Okay, we need you to vote one way or the other on approval of minutes.
On what?
Approval of November minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes. Aye.
All right, thank you. Did we get Robert Cooper on there?
Back on, I'll
What?
ask him.
And who else did we have?
That's it.
That's it,
Okay.
because Wayne's absent.
Go ahead.
You can keep going.
Okay. All right, first thing up, we've got, they gotta make sure they can hear too. Public hearing 2022-P-100272. Application filed by Mirar Custom Homes to approve rezone the property located at 415 Lake Shore Drive from a C2 zone to a PUD, which is planned unit development. Petitioner requests a primary and secondary review of the PUD and asks the planning commission to approve the rezoning pending the approval of variance and development standards for a PUD, which will be scheduled for a BZA hearing at a later date. And to explain what that is, we have to discuss the PUD and then it'll go to the BZA for any variance or setbacks or whatever. And we will either approve or not approve, but if we approve it, it'll be with the stipulation only if the BZA grants the variances for this project. And then it will come back to the planning commission after that. Just so you know the process, a little different than usual, but I guess this time if you wanna, oh, if we got called public hearing.
Yeah, we need a motion to open.
Yeah, I
the
need a
hearing.
motion.
Motion to open public hearing 2022 P-100272. Second.
Got first and second, all in favor?
We gotta do a roll call.
I say Andrew.
Okay.
Aye. 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 Aye from Joel.
Aye from Barry.
Aye.
And it's Chester
That
Yes.
was just-
and Robert Cooper.
This wasn't long back on, but
We got
he's out of
quorum,
the
and
job, so
it-
if they got on a fire call, he has to leave.
but it is a full quorum, so.
Put down 7-0 and
All right. Now, if you want to present.
My name is James Knuth. I'm with Mech Engineering here to represent Mirar Custom with the Lots at 415 project. We have been here a few times before. We are intentional fixed condo style or townhome. Our proposal does meet, in our opinion, does meet with the surrounding land usage. And we believe this would be a great addition to the town of Culver as it stands.
could you spell your full name for me just for the minutes, please?
Sure. It's James Knuth. And Knuth is K-N-U-T-H.
TH.
T-H.
Thank you.
No, this is pretty much what it was before, right?
Correct.
There's no changes from what,
No, sir.
all right, and for the public, this has all been pretty much gone through over and over and over prior to the other. And no changes made. Everything has been covered through TRC, which I've got the TRC minutes. But from what we've seen so far, I mean, with the changes, I know it was approved before, but that doesn't mean we're gonna approve it now, just so you know. If anybody else has anything to say on this, because I'm not sure what questions we need to ask since it's all the same, but I know we've got everything required as far as the development, everything else, or we're gonna need that after the secondary here.
They've submitted a stormwater plan, utility plan.
I know I've got it here, but stormwater plan, everything else is on this paper if anybody wants to look at it.
And then that last site plan set they sent included the elevation page that was not in the original site plan set. And they have a landscaping page in there as well,
So the height,
and they've submitted a construction schedule as well.
So the height of it will be on average, what is it? I know it's 29 feet on one side, 24 or something, I believe.
What was the question?
The height,
So yeah, there is a bit of a grade difference between the
Right.
front of the units and the back. So the front portion will be at just under 25 feet. While the back portions on the lower parts of the property, they would be, if I recall correctly,
you got 27,
yeah,
9.
just under 20.
So you've got actually 12 parking spaces for
Correct.
six.
So we, for each unit provided 2 parking spaces, one inside a enclosed garage space, and the other just outside the front of it.
No prior before, and I'm not bringing it up all the time, but I know there's changes a little bit on the site where you come up Lakeview.
Correct. So we do configuration plan. Entirely separate buildings. And we've used that. We've listened to some of the comments from the neighbors at on previous meetings, and we want to address some of those concerns. So by rearranging the layout, we should hopefully address some of those different concerns that are brought up. The traffic, we have rearranged it so have a single drive through coming in off of Coolidge and then exiting at Lakeview.
So it's just gonna be the one way in off of
Correct.
Coolidge, coming back over on Lake. I know we're going over this again, but for the public, I'm not sure they hear some of the things that we're going through. If you want to discuss or anything.
I guess my question is, why would you just have it one way? Why couldn't you come off of Lakeview Street to go into it, to go into your garage and just have to come up with Coolidge?
Sure. So the concerns were with Coolidge being a one-way street. Then it was brought up initially that there were concerns that would cause some congestion on Coolidge there. There is nothing, I mean, this is, would consider a private drive. So at the end of the day, one way is what we're suggesting, but there's nothing restricting it.
So there's nothing restricting it from coming in off of Lakeview to go into the garage area.
Correct.
But you would prefer to have it one way.
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Samerson, you got anything?
Nothing. Speed bumps. Last time we were discussing about that driveway in order to slow the speed of traffic coming out on the side streets.
So there is a substantial grade change going from east to west as you go up Lakeview or towards Lakeview. Having a speed bump would be, in our opinion, unnecessary just due to the fact that with the hill being as is, it acts as a speed bump in itself.
Okay.
I'm good.
Bobby Cooper, have you got anything to add, concerns?
Oh, no, I do not. Thank you for checking.
Chester Goop?
No,
All right, this time I'll wait on that. You having?
Do you want me to read the letters I have before the public, or do you want me to wait?
No, I would rather go ahead and let you get
Okay.
through the letters, and then everybody else can have a little bit more information before they speak.
Okay. I have a set of them, so I'll start with, one that's signed by multiple people, and maybe another one signed by multiple people. I forwarded you all of these in the last 48 hours or so. This one that I'm first reading came into me late today, so you haven't seen this one yet via email. Dear Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, and Town Council. This letter is mainly from residents that were notified by mail of the proposed development of 415 Lakeshore Drive. These residents all live within 300 feet or in the immediate proximity to the proposed development, or the families that will have a direct impact will be forced to deal with the daily consequences of the development. I'm also asking you to decline the application for a planned unit development. We agree that this property would best suit a residential development, but it needs to be a reasonable and responsible plan. The current plan of 6 townhome units on 1/3 of an acre is simply unreasonable. This could potentially add 20 to 24 additional residents without providing ample parking and creating a poor traffic flow on Coolidge and Lakeview streets. There's minimal green space, which is supposed to be natural open space, not just squares of grass. This development will not benefit the current neighborhood, which is currently all single-family homes, and will only increase congestion and traffic on our streets, not to mention that parking will become non-existent for our residents. The dangerous sight lines of this development are a huge concern for our children and our neighborhood bikers and walkers. Coolidge and Lakeview streets are an access point for joggers and dog walkers to the lakefront path. The blind corners with no visibility are setting up the perfect area for a deadly car or golf cart accident. Even after reviewing the stormwater report, there are still concerns for our neighborhood. This site plan has no place for rainwater to drain on site and will continue to overload the existing storm sewer and exacerbate the current flooding on the street at the bottom of Coolidge where the bike path is located. The rainwater needs to be absorbed on the property, not dumped down the hill, adding additional rainwater to the surrounding streets. The architecture does not fit in with surroundings, with completely flat roofs being 25 feet high and only being 5 feet from the sidewalk. There needs to be more reasonable and consistent setbacks that are more similar to the properties already in this area. We'd like to see a reasonable development in this area that would benefit our single-family neighborhood. We do not need all these townhomes packed into this small lot. It would seem more appropriate to have homes that have outside green space, patios, and attached garages like the current single-family zoning that is on all 4 sides of this property. These units do not allow for the residents to be outside and enjoy a quiet neighborhood. This development does meet the stated goal of attracting young families who does not meet the stated goal of attracting young families for year-round to support local businesses. These families would want outdoor living space for their children, which this development does not currently offer. We don't want to lose the small town charm we have all come to know and love about Culver. Our neighborhood currently looks out for each other by receiving packages, lending a hand, or bringing in trash cans. The owners of these townhomes would most likely be investment properties, resulting in numerous Airbnb rentals that are not invested in our community. We ask that you vote no to this PUD tonight and ask the developer to come back with a reasonable plan more fitting for our neighborhood. Sincerely, I'm going to list the names and addresses, and then I will pass this to you for a few minutes. But Bob and Lindy Darovic, 230 Lakeview Street. Jeff and Kathy Mansfield, 222 Lakeview Street. Susan and Andrew Northrop, 404 Lakeshore Drive. Matthew and Caitlin Nagel, 221 Coolidge Court. Doug and Sean Farmer, 225 Lakeview Street. Betsy and Colin McNabb, 216 Lakeview Street. Rusty and Kim Kearns, 215 Lakeview Street. Bill and Cheryl Rhodes, 228 Lakeview Street. Tracy and Adam Gordon, 221 Lakeview Street. Dan Nagel, 416 Lakeview Street. Yvonne Shepard, 427 Lakeview Street. Doug and Chris Bernhardt, 421 Lakeview Street and 415 Lakeview Street. Chris Nickel, 411 East Washington Street, Unit 6. Dan Sly and Carrie Gillis, 322 Lakeshore Drive. Lindsay and Bill Wheeler, 411 East Washington Street, Unit 12. Ed and Barb Benke, 321 East Washington Street. The next group letter. Town of Culver, Culver Planning Commission, Culver Town Council Board of Zoning approval. To whom it may concern, please consider voting yes for the proposal concerning the townhomes at 415 East Lakeshore Drive. This type of housing is the perfect fit for the area and will provide much needed alternative housing for the town of Culver while increasing the tax base. The 6-unit building is an appropriate size for the property and will not be obstructive to the neighborhood. The fact that there are 12 parking spaces available on site will lessen parking issues for area residents. There are many commercial properties in town currently sitting vacant. The fact that 415 Lakeshore is already zoned commercial could potentially add to this already troublesome problem. Not to mention that commercial businesses operating at this location would bring an abundance of noise, traffic, and congestion to the area. We would highly recommend the Plan Commission, Culver Town Council, and Board of Zoning approval rule in favor of the zoning change for this project. I'm gonna read you the addresses and the names. Some of these names I can't make out, so some of them were hand signed. It's not what that's you.
Anna Maria, somebody?
Okay. 19795 16th Road, Culver. Dick Brenningham, 1071 West Shore Drive, Culver. Terry Brenningham, 1071 West Shore Drive, Culver. Somebody at 464 State Street. I can't make out the name. 525 East Lake Shore Drive. Looks like Trisha something. Another one at 521 East Lake Shore Drive. Kelly Rogers at 167 North Terrace Drive. John Rogers, 167 North Terrace Drive. Fritz and Julie Steck, 1290 East Shore Drive. Claire Heiss, 1766 East Shore Drive. Shirley Amond, 432 School Street. Tim Amond Wright, 432 School Street. Thomas Fritz, 559 East Jefferson Street. I'm multitasking there and letting someone into the meeting. Sorry. Allie Fritz, 328 East Jefferson Street. Michael Madison, 1059 West Shore Drive. Richard Heiss Jr., 1500 East Shore Drive. Jenny Egan, 1814 East Shore Drive. Walding, not sure, 1814 East Shore Drive.
Probably the same last name.
Yeah, Egan. Deb Sears, 319 East Jefferson Street, number 137. Catherine Densmore, 50 West Shore Drive. Something Henrik, 728 East Shore Drive. Sharon Fitz, 328 East Shore Drive. Anna and J.R. Spitznogel, 319 East Jefferson Street, number 212. Mary McBride, 1059 West Shore Drive. Robert Louth, 920 East Shore Drive. Then I have some individual letters. To whom it may concern, please consider voting yes. This appears to be the same letter just sent separately, and that's Carol Zieglis with no address. This one is from Greg Vandenboom, and this one is the same as another letter that we received, so I'll give you both of those names once I come across it. Dear Culver Planning Commission members, I'm writing to state my opposition to the proposed development at 415 Lakeshore. I am a Culver homeowner and purchased my home nearly 4 years ago. We utilize the park, beach, and boat slips, and our 4 young children attend Culver summer camp. The proposed development will impact how we are able to use these facilities and our enjoyment thereof based on the following concerns. The high density of residents in this type of building, which doesn't fit with the residential neighborhood and small town feel of Culver. There's no outdoor or community living space, which does not fit the look, feel, and pace of the Culver lifestyle. These units are starting at $450,000, which is not affordable for the young family residents Culver's trying to attract. Potential residents with young families want outdoor living space for kids to play and be part of the community. This will pose safety hazards with limited sight lines, noise, traffic, parking hassles, and commotion too close to the park and festivals. The lakefront path access down Coolidge is designed for walkers and runners, not designed for 20+ residents, overflow parking and traffic. This will pose a safety hazard for all pedestrians, particularly for the Boys and Girls Club kids who walk down Lakeshore to the park, crossing the side streets. These units do not promote a sense of community and will likely be purchased by absentee investors for short-term rentals, which wouldn't support the struggling local businesses year-round. These units will only be attractive to investors, not full-time year-round residents, as they're not affordable. They also have no outdoor living space, part of the neighborhood and community. These units are not affordable for attracting academy faculty, top employer, and their families. I'm in favor of the redevelopment of the parcel, but this large out-of-place structure with the potential for more than 20 cars, additional residents is not appropriate for this site. The additional vehicles and associated traffic pose a major safety concern for our children and their ability to travel from home to the park and the beach. Please consider our concerns and those of all Culver residents and enjoy everything that Culver and Lake Max have to offer. Thank you, Greg Vandenboom. There isn't an address for that one. There's another separate email from Mark Demore Jr. at 20277 Sage Road. I absolutely support basically all proposed improvements throughout our great town for many of the reasons included in your letter, and he's referencing that first one the second one that I read. I'm familiar with this project and do believe it will be done right. Usually I try and avoid formally picking a side on any issues that seem to create a divide like this one, simply because of the risk of losing guests. Sadly, you and I both know how fickle the public can be and would easily choose not to dine at my restaurant simply because I do not like the opinion. However, in this instance, the contention has seemed to elevate to a new level. It's clear that you may need as many voices as possible. My hope is those opposed will be satisfied with the adjustments, at least accept the potential benefits of growth, all of which will certainly be better than the former rotting building or the current mud. The next one is from Stu McInturf at 430 Harding Court. Dear Plan Commission, BZA Town Council members, I'm writing to support the proposed Mirar Custom Homes development at 415 Lakeshore Drive. I live 2 blocks from the proposed development. Do not believe it will cause any negative outcome for me or the other neighbors. I lived there when City Tavern was still in existence and there was traffic to and from that restaurant, but it never caused congestion and traffic problems for myself or other residents that I'm aware of. Culver needs more housing. Being a business owner, we need more residents to shop and eat if we are to maintain our businesses. In addition, I'm certain if this housing development doesn't go in, there will be someone else who buys the property for a commercial endeavor, which will cause constant in and out traffic, likely more than this housing development. Please vote yes for this project. The next one's from Cheryl O'Brien at 461 State Street. I'm writing to state my opposition to the proposed development at 415 Lakeshore. I'm in full support of the development of the space. Look forward to it becoming a productive use of space. I don't believe a structure that will house this many individuals and cars is the right thing for this space. The increased traffic and parking is not what we need to maintain the small town feel of Culver, which is why so many of us have purchased homes in this community. The thought of a development with no outdoor living space goes against what this community is about, enjoying the beauty of this wonderful part of Marshall County. I would love to see housing that assists in the growth that is needed in Culver, ideally something that would support young families or the Culver Academy staff. I'm confident that the Planning Commission will make a decision that supports the desires of the community and the growth of our town. Cheryl O'Brien, 461 State Street. This one does not have an address, and there are 2 signatures. One is Peggy Cumler and one is Meg Dinwiddie Burke. Dear Culver Planning Commission, I'm writing to state my opposition to the proposed development at 415 Lakeshore due to the following reasons and concerns. Pick what fits your thoughts from below or add your own words, reasons why you choose to have a home in Culver. Then there's a bulleted list. There are too many units and residents in the Chicago row house style of building, which doesn't fit well in the residential neighborhood and small town feel of Culver. Doesn't fit the look, feel, and pace of the Culver Lake lifestyle with no outdoor community living space. The year-round young family residents Culver's trying to attract cannot afford these units starting at $450,000. The year-round young family residents Culver's trying to attract would want outdoor living space for kids to play and be part of the community. This will pose safety hazards with limited sightlines, noise, traffic, parking hassles, and commotion too close to the park and festivals. The lakefront path access down Coolidge is designed for dog walkers and runners, not designed for 20+ residents, overflow parking and traffic. This will pose a safety hazard for all pedestrians, but particularly for the Boys and Girls Club. This is like the previous letter with a slight modification. They also have no outdoor living space to become part of the neighborhood and community. The units are not affordable for attracting academy faculty and their families. I'm in favor of using the space for development, but this large big city structure with 20+ cars and residents is too much. Okay, there's a couple more here. Speaking on behalf of my husband and myself, we are supporting the zoning change in support of the townhouse project. A nice townhouse complex would make a great addition to the town of Culver. Culver is a special community. We're excited to welcome new people to the community. Sincerely, Scott and Mary Ann Rice, owners of Culver Cove Unit 141. The next one is from David Sem. And he puts the address in his opening line. We're writing to state our opposition to proposed development at 415 Lakeshore due to the following reasons concerns. We purchased our house, 607 North Plymouth, solely based on the fact that we love the small town charm of the city, which has remained largely intact despite significant growth and media exposure. Chicago-style row houses do not integrate well with Culver as a whole, especially on Lakeshore Drive, directly across from historic single-family residences. Row houses built up to the sidewalk definitely do not support the lake lifestyle and seen on Lakeshore Drive. Traffic on Lakeshore would be negatively impacted with ingress, egress from these units, in addition to already limited parking along that stretch. Why would the town encourage more congestion so close to the lakefront and park, especially during summer with parades and festivals? Tall multi-level units would essentially form a wall blocking off the view and sense of openness coming to the lakefront from the neighborhoods up on Academy and College Streets. We understand the cost of these units could be in the neighborhood of $450,000. The year-round young family residents Culver's trying to attract would be priced out of these units, will likely be purchased for Airbnb or weekend use, which wouldn't support struggling local business year-round, will only be attractive to wealthy investors, not full-time year-round residents, not affordable for attracting academy faculty and their families. There are too many units and residents in the Chicago Row style housing, which doesn't fit well in the residential neighborhood and small town feel of Culver. Doesn't fit the look, feel, and pace of the Culver Lake lifestyle with no outdoor community living space. If we are in favor of using this space for development, but this large big city structure with 20+ cars and residents is too much. We hope you will listen to the taxpayers and residents of the town. Chicago style row houses are not a good fit in Culver. The next one is from Robin Barrick, who's at 303 North Main and Main Street. Good morning. So opposed to this development, too crowded, bad idea. Poor Coolidge Street will never hold up. The lot should hold one, maybe two bungalow type homes for the neighborhood. You know what happens when they put too many rats in small spaces and science experiments. I just see so much unrest in the future from too many people if this goes through. The last part of this is for wishing you a Merry Christmas, so I won't read that.
You can, if you want to.
Let me make sure there's no other ones in there. I also have a letter from Mr. Snyder. I have forwarded you all this document. Should I read this one as well, Jim, or just put it in with the minutes? From the attorney.
I'd read it.
Okay. Dear Jenny, I've been provided with a copy of the notice dated November 21, 2022, indicating that a hearing will be conducted by Culver Plan Commission on a request to rezone 415 Lakeshore Drive from C2 to PUD. The notice indicates that the petitioner is requesting both primary and secondary review of the PUD and for approval pending approval of the variance from development standards as may be approved at a future PZA hearing. Section 7040 DC prohibits plan commission from considering site development plan applications for a period of 1 year following a denial by the plan commission. The judgment entered by Judge Palmer on October 25, 2022 concludes that the application of Mirar should be denied by the Culver Plan Commission. That denial was entered October 25, 2022, which would prevent refiling of the same petition until October 26, 2023. I'm not able to present at the December 20th hearing, but have instructed my clients to submit a copy of Judge Palmer's order to make it a record in this matter. If the Plan Commission determines that it will proceed with the pending application, I would suggest it should be handled as an entirely new matter with no consideration being given to the prior hearing unless the entire record of the prior proceedings is made part of the record in this matter. Even then, remonsters should be entitled to present whatever statements in favor or opposition of the project, even if they would be repetitive of what was stated at the first hearing. Because the notice indicates the Plan Commission will be considering both primary and secondary approval, this appears to be contrary to Judge Palmer's order, which indicates that secondary approval cannot be granted until such time as the Board of Zoning Appeals were to approve any required variance from the PUD development standards. From a practical standpoint, Judge Palmer's order can be read to require BZA approval of variances from development standards prior to any consideration of a rezoning from C2 to PUD, even if any primary approval were granted. Please present the letter to Plan Commission on December 20th. Hearings that can be made part of the record. Very truly yours, Stephen Snyder.
As I recall, you responded to that and explained to him that the intention was always to just handle this on a preliminary approval basis, refer it, if approved, to the BZA for their consideration of the variance.
Yes,
And as I recall, his response is that he understood that.
I basically said we were treating this as a new application, that it was coming here, but contingent on the BZA variance and then coming back to here. And copy Mr. Clevenger, so.
And just to explain that you can't go to the BZA when it's C2 to ask for a variance for a PUD. In other words, you'd be asking for a variance on a different zone. It just can't happen.
Yes,
So
that makes sense.
just so everybody knows why it has to go back and forth.
I believe all the ones that I have.
Fox, have you got anything that you wanted addressed earlier, or any questions for it? You have nothing? Okay.
I will forward you the one that wasn't forwarded, that I got at the last minute.
I'll just scan these and attach them to the minutes.
Okay.
And I'll address public now, but before I do, I'd like to ask that, everybody be civil and respectful. I mean, not referring to before, but I know it got pretty disrespectful in the meetings, and I will have to call you down. I don't want to, but under handle this meeting because there's several people who want to get a chance to talk. And I would very appreciate the fact that just respect other people. No conversations between everybody else. I'm, while somebody else is speaking too. And
We want to do it in order of who signed the list. So it's this person offer them a chance to speak because of their attendance.
yeah,
That way
we
it's
can
orderly.
do it that way. Yeah.
Thank
And
you,
there are
Rich.
some people here for a whole separate hearing, but they may want to speak later.
Oh, yeah.
Just about everybody signed in.
On one page.
I think.
Okay, we'll start with John Fisk. You have nothing? Okay,
Rich.
yeah, Rich West.
No comment.
All right, Kathy Mansfield.
I think I'm next on the list. Well,
Are you Kathy?
no, I'm not, but I think.
I'm sorry, I said no disrespect.
Jeff, could you give me your address for the minutes, please?
Yeah.
22 Lakeview. I have already made copies of that letter, so I think that's the one you said you wanted
Oh.
to send out. So, some of this has already been distributed, but.
Just read in the record.
Thank you.
Then right into that.
Thank you.
Right, so what I provided are copies of the letter from our attorney, which have already been discussed. Copy of the order reversing the Culver Plan Commission recommendation. The PUD review considerations from the Culver zoning code. Layout showing the area could be built on, applying various zoning districts. The pictures demonstrating the visibility and text of proposed developments. These documents will be the basis for my testimony tonight. The developer, I did want to mention some points from the letter, but that's already been done. And then Jenny's response. So I guess I'm down to, so is tonight a preliminary or secondary approval? The meeting notice says it's primary and secondary review.
This is what they're requesting, but it's not both because we can't do, because
Okay,
until after either the variance.
so I would expect I would expect any ordinance or recommendation to be just for primary tonight.
Well, I think
Preliminary.
it would definitely, we can't do a secondary because we don't have,
It was
we won't even
advertised,
actually be,
it was advertised as both contingent on a variance approval from the BZA.
Right.
So technically, they have to come back after the BZA hearing.
And the other thing was the response that was sent, did not respond to the question of this already being denied by the court order and the refiling. It's our contention, since there have not been substantial changes to the plan, this cannot be reheard until October of next year.
you might have to answer this,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think under the,
I knew that Mr. Snyder was probably going to raise that. I saw in the letter. This body didn't deny the application. The court vacated the decision based on its various reasons that are set out in the order. And it says the developer's application should be denied pending consideration of required variance by the Culver Zoning Board of Appeals. So I guess if you look technically at did this body deny that application, it did not. Did the court on its behalf deny that application? It apparently did pending consideration of the required variances, but is that following statute that Mr. Snyder citing as if the Plan Commission had originally denied the application? I don't know the answer to that. I guess maybe you guys will, challenge that if it gets that far, and we'll find out if Judge Palmer thinks that's the case or doesn't think that's the case. But I'm just suggesting to you, this is not the typical situation, and I don't know what somebody may think about all that.
So now I want to discuss points of the reversing order that should be considered tonight. I realize that the variations will be the subject of the BZA, but there are still some points that their planning commission should consider. Finding 3, which is regarding the non-conforming use of land that is vacant, must conform to the current zoning if rebuilt. So we keep hearing comparisons to the previous building, and those arguments are no longer valid, as the previous building did not conform to the current zoning code. The building cannot be rebuilt as it existed previously, so those arguments no longer hold water. You have to determine, based on if there was a C2, what would be able to be built as a C2 on that property now, with obviously they could request variations. And in my documents I've submitted, you can see a C2 layout with what could be built, the building area. In point 16 and point 18 of the reversing order, the judge commented on the lack of findings of fact. I have provided copies of the review considerations that are outlined in the Culver zoning code that the planning commission must consider in making their recommendation tonight on rezoning. As I wasn't sure if how many of you would have copies of that with you. It is our expectation that the planning commission will provide finding of facts using these criteria. According to Law Insider, the following is a definition of finding of facts. Finding of facts means a brief statement of the determination of issues of fact, supported by evidence in record or matters officially noted. Based on this, in the court's decision, Plan Commission must provide statements of the facts presented to support the recommendation they make tonight. Not just that the proposed or project meets the condition, but the testimony that was provided that backs that up. Rulings by the commission are based on fact, not opinion. Section 19 of the order reversing the decision, Judge Palmer stated several possible violations of development standards. Although most of these will be the subject of BZA, there are a number of items that would be considered, should be considered by the Plan Commission in determining their recommendation. First is a general question. Why is this being rezoned as a PUD when it is obviously a multifamily residential development and should be zoned R2, be considered R2? I have provided documentation that shows you could build on this as R2. What is the justification for the PUD zoning? Is it the developer requested it? Or I would think that the correct zoning should be determined by the Plan Commission, not the developer. Next item, the extent that the plan meets the requirements, standards, and purpose of the PUD. Although we have talked about a front yard setback of 5 feet, if you look closely at that plan that we've got tonight, in reviewing the plan that has been submitted, there is actually a 0 front yard setback. In section 13 of the zoning code, where definitions, the definition of a setback is the minimum horizontal distance between the street, rear, or side lot lines from the furthermost projection of the structure, including eaves. In reviewing the latest plan submitted, there appears there is a 5 yard front yard setback. However, the elevations depict balconies on the front and rear of the building that are not factored in this measurement. Based on the plan and the setback definition, it would appear that the front yard setback would be less than 1 foot and potentially no setback. Another item is for consideration, proposal not to injure public health, safety, and general welfare. I have provided pictures of the impact the building will have on sight lines at the corner of Lakeshore Drive and Lakeview Street. These pictures demonstrate the impact that the safety have at that corner. A car traveling at 25 miles per hour, which is the speed limit, travels 36.7 feet per second. Estimating the distance that can be viewed on Lakeshore Drive, a car traveling westbound on Lakeshore would be in the intersection with Lakeview in 4.5 seconds. This is not adequate for a person to recognize an issue and deaccelerate if needed to avoid an accident. And these pictures do not factor in automobiles that would park in front of the building due to the limited parking on the site. Last, as part of the plan submission, the developer is required to provide covenants. These are incomplete and they do not include the covenants the owners will be subject to. This is critical to the neighbors, so we understand how the development will be maintained and any restrictions on noise due to rentals that would impact surrounding property. In summary, I would ask the Plan Commission to deny this rezoning to a PUD. I would ask that the recommendation include finding of facts that reference specific testimony provided tonight that would support the recommendations as ordered by Judge Palmer.
Thank you.
And the speed limit is 20 miles an hour, not 25, but it's just to correct myself. Jeff Mansfield, which is you. Okay. Thomas Wiley.
No comment.
No comment. And
Vantage.
Vantage. Vantage.
That's what I'm reading. And Vantage, are we saying that
Okay.
wrong?
No, you got it. That's
Okay.
me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Ann Vantage. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of my mom who is homesick with laryngitis. She couldn't be here, but she wanted to be. Her letter says, my name is Marilyn Vantage. My address is 16125 Dogwood Lane, Plymouth, Indiana. My husband and I would like to buy one of the proposed townhouses at 415 Lakeshore. Our family has had a residence in Culver since 1953 and has been involved in the community at that same length of time. We would be permanent tax-paying citizens and would actively be involved in civic life of the community. I'm a small business owner and have successfully furnished many family homes and businesses in Culver. We're asking that you pass the zoning change from commercial to residential so that the project can get underway and so that my husband and I can add to the Culver community in a positive way. We support the Mirar builders and their vision to improve downtown Culver. Thank you.
And is it a copy of the letter I could add to the minutes?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Can't read this one at all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Said it. Can't even start. Yeah, you're trying. I mean, I'm sorry. It was.
The last name starts with a Y.
Not too many Ys.
Tom Newhouse, yep.
Is that you, Tom? I wouldn't have guessed that. I thought it might be.
Sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
I say to that, thank goodness.
I'm glad I didn't try.
Let me-
Yeah, plain as can be, right?
I wouldn't know who it was, so. Jen, do you want to know?
Tom, what's your address for the record?
It's in my notes. It's 430 State.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Uhas. I reside at 430 State Street in Culver. I'm here to voice my support for the changes to the zoning status of 415 Lakeshore property. I have two reasons for my supporting this change. First, as you are well aware, the commission had previously approved the request for the property to become a PUD. However, due to policy and procedural discrepancies, the initial change was overruled by the courts. Now that the process is in accordance with the Indiana state statute, the approval should be granted as requested since the project has not changed from the previous appeal. Secondly, this property is in the TIF district and would remain so as a PUD. The vast increase in appraised value of the completed project would be a positive impact to the Culver Redevelopment Commission. For these two reasons, I ask you approve the zoning change to a PUD. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Right there.
Can read the Bonine.
I'm not here for this issue.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Here we've got another one.
And go initial team.
This one I haven't. God, I clear. I come closer to town if on that one.
No idea.
Who signed after Thomas? I guess we're gonna change it to print your name.
I was gonna say, why don't you print?
The middle initial is an M,
Was that an M?
otherwise it's scribbly. And then after that would be Doug and Shan Farmer.
Farmer.
Okay.
Thanks for 225 Lakeview. So thank you for hearing me keep this brief. I think Jeff said.
We appreciate it as well. Just let you know.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So Jenny took some time to read some letters into the record. I think that's awesome. There's a lot of people that are interested, but I asked the planning commission to give weight to the fact that 18 people live in the immediate neighborhood between Lakeview, Coolidge, Washington, and Lakeshore Drive, this sign in opposition to this. It's nice that the builder has a lot of representation of friends around the lake, but they're not the ones that have to look out on this. We are. So I just ask that you give way to that.
I appreciate that.
Jennifer Littrell
No comment.
and
Richard, no comment.
Ron and Barrett. Good. Dean and Sarah Jones, who are the builders. Adam and Tracy Gordon.
I'm Tracy Gordon. I live at 221 Lakeview Street, full-time resident. I'm very concerned about this proposal and its negative effect that it'll have on the residents of Lakeview Street and our community. As it stands right now, Lakeview Street is currently a drag strip where cars race up and down, cut through towns and areas so that they can avoid now going through Washington Street, which is now one way. Lakeview Street is narrow, and when cars are parked on both sides of the street, there's not enough room for cars in the opposite direction to pass. This proposed plan will only increase the traffic on Lakeview Street and create potentially dangerous situations for our residents and our street. I'm also concerned about the parking on Lakeview Street. As now, the bottom half of Lakeview Street is currently used for the Harbor condominiums, which is located at the bottom of our street. The proposed plan does not have enough parking. I honestly feel that I'm not against anybody building anything there. I just feel like it needs to be more of a single family home neighborhood that fits what we have there. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Sally Ricciardi. Travis Marshall,
No comment.
Kevin Berger,
No comment.
and then Dean and Sarah, if you guys would like to speak as well. Mr. Knut, is that how you say last name? I'm sorry.
No worries.
Is also on the list, but since you two haven't had a chance.
And you may be able to answer some of the concerns.
Yeah, that's what I was taking notes on. And we tried very hard throughout this process to listen to the neighbors. We are, Sarah Jones, 416 Harding Court.
Thank you.
Mirar Custom Homes. As we are neighbors, a lot of our family are neighbors and friends are neighbors, still friends are neighbors. We've tried to put a lot of thought into this to make this the best possible usage for that area. Initially, it was suggested to us to do the 2 building thing, which we were kind of hesitant about. So I think the change is making it single building all facing Lakeshore there should not be any traffic going down Coolidge and coming up Lakeview other than that first entrance, the next. That being said, people use State Street and Harding Court as a pass through, and there's a bunch of traffic coming up Harding Court where we live, and they go out an alley. And it's kind of crazy. Not sure why. I don't think they know that it doesn't go through. But we felt that this plan really keeps the traffic off of the southern part of Coolidge and Lakeview. And we do realize there's a parking issue with the harbor because they did not provide 2 parking units per unit on site. And we have done that with this. The property right across from the fire station also is a 6-unit townhome building. And they have 2 units per, there are 2 parking spaces per unit on site. And there's still parking issues because a lot of people go to the park, which is 1 block away from this property here. So, but we felt with just 6 units there that this really helps having 12 parking spaces on site. I will say the majority of people that have approached us and want to purchase a unit like Marilyn Vantage are elderly people, older people that want a no maintenance place to live. They don't want to take care of lawns, things like that. They want to be close to town to be able to go to farmers market, walk to farmers market, to restaurants, not necessarily have to drive. That being said, we don't feel that it would be used as an Airbnb. That's been considered in the covenants, that putting that into the covenants that it cannot be used as an Airbnb. That's something though that we feel that the 6 residents should maybe make that determination upon themselves unless it is dictated by the town, which that can happen too, which we would be fine with. So the people that have approached us, want to buy these, will be full-time residents, older full-time residents. Like I said, they're going to be selling homes that will be available to younger families that want a big yard that can have, backyard for the kids to play in. There was a lot of comments about the community green space and being out there and having an outdoor space. There's a fabulous park 1 block away, and most of the residents around that area don't really have a large yard and congregate in the park. So we think that this type of project would be great for bringing the community to the park too. As far as the PUD, that's what was suggested to us based on the fifth information to do a PUD versus an R2. Both can be used in the same way here. So it was pretty much a toss up by that. And so that's why it was suggested, what was suggested to us, and that's why we presented it as the PUD. I will say I was a little surprised at a couple of names on the letter with all the neighbors listed, because at least 2 of those people that were listed on that letter verbally told us they were in support of this project. So I'm not quite sure what happened there, and I will reach out to both of them and see if they've changed their mind, and if so, for what reason, and something we can do, adjustments that we can make to the project. But we feel it is a good project for the area. They keep talking about 20 cars. I'm not sure where 20 cars are going to come from with 6 units. And I do believe that I know at least one of the people that wants to buy it has 1 car. So that it could potentially be as few as 6 or even less. We don't anticipate this being just a summer usage thing. It sounds like it's more people that have lived in the area and need something that's maintenance free and in town, and there's not much available like that. Okay.
Dean Jones, 416 Harding Court as well, Mirar Custom Homes. The one thing I wanted to address was the balconies. And I understand that's a setback issue. The balconies were added to the front elevation to give it some character and charm. Those are non-usable balconies. They're decorative in nature. They're basically just railings across windows. If there's adjustment that needs to be made on the plan to accommodate the setback there, then we're more than willing to do it. And I'd like James to address the sight line, the triangle issue, the speed limit being 20 miles per hour, those kinds of things.
Absolutely. So a couple of the concerns that were brought up, as Dean mentioned, the sightline requirement. Sightline triangles, which has been brought up multiple times, is based upon the center lines of the roads. And we have more than exceeded what is currently being required. Sarah, would you actually mind pulling that up? Here. So this is below one of our sheets of our plans. In the upper left corner, you can see this required site clearance triangle. It is required 50 feet from center line to center line of roads. We exceed that by about 10 feet or so. So I just wanted to point that out, that we do actually meet all the requirements for setback.
Could everybody see that? Where we sit?
Oh, yes, of course, if anyone would like to see it that hasn't, we do have it up here. And then I do know another concern that was brought up was stormwater. And that is a concern, especially across Indiana as a whole, that stormwater is a big concern. With a lot of development over the past century has caused flooding issues across many parts of the state. That said, this property was primarily concrete and impervious surfaces structures prior to the demolition of the building. We are actually with the addition of the grass areas would provide more infiltration, and we are actually providing storm sewer in places that would not have it. This should help alleviate drainage issues in the area, provide additional storage underground, and should provide no more further drainage issues on this property that weren't already present there previously.
And we do have those drainage plans,
Correct.
so.
You do have a drainage calc, which again meets all the requirements laid out by the town ordinance.
I have a meeting question. This is not about this. We all signed in to talk. Did the people online get a chance to talk too? Yes. Oh, they didn't sign in, so I was just asking.
Yeah, and we'll go to that now if there's anybody online that.
If you're online and would like to speak, please unmute yourself and bear with us as we can only have one of you go at a time and give your name and address.
This is Russ Mason, 530 Forest Place. I'm not going to take the commission's time up. Many people spoke and there were a lot of positive comments that I agreed with. I'm in favor of the project. There was some talk about the costs of housing. If I know that the people that are against this would like to see a couple of single family homes put up there. Can you imagine what the costs of those would be in order to reap the value of the land and the in order for the developer to reap some type of a benefit? The other thing that really concerns me is I've always been unhappy with the zoning of that property being C2, mainly because of the kinds of businesses that can go there, which would really be detrimental to that area. And whatever happens, it should be a residential. It should be a residential kind of involvement. Leaving it C2 really leaves it open to many kinds of businesses that would not be conducive to that area. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else?
I'm looking to see if anyone else is unmuting themselves.
Lindy and Bob Derevick, 230 Lakeview Street.
Go ahead.
My husband Bob and I, we own the property that is directly on the site plan for this new development. A lot of our neighbors have already spoken, and we're not going to be redundant. The fact keeps being brought up that about the current C2 zoning. There are already vacant commercial properties in Culver. I don't think anyone's going to buy this property and put in more commercial. I think that's kind of not something that we just don't even need to address. Also, I feel, again, we are in agreement that there is something that needs to be built here, that needs to be developed here. It does need to be reasonable. This is not a reasonable plan for a small of an acreage that we have here. And we just want to go on the record that we're opposing this. And I do also want to bring to a point along with our neighbor Doug that there were over 18 families that are in direct location to this property that are opposing it as well.
Thank you very much.
See if anyone else is unmuting, Barry.
All right.
Any others? Am I allowed to speak as a citizen? And
Yeah, yes, you can.
Council member.
Yeah.
I met with the builder early on.
What's your name and address?
In my rest, 18 Academy.
For the
Road,
public as well.
a few blocks north of this. But I did meet with the developer builder early on and wondered why they did not want to keep it as a C2, because you can put condos, townhomes above a commercial space and go as high as 35 feet. A lot of the commercial buildings the building I used to own on South Main Street was a C2. The one next to me was as well with the Collins building, and that commercial space that he has down below with townhomes above or apartment units, whatever you want to call it, would be allowed in this space, probably with variances on that zone as well. The way it was zoned when the last building that burned down was there would have needed variances to rebuild on the same footprint, and they would be allowed to build on the same footprint if it hadn't burned down. But anyway, part of that conversation was as a PUD and a TIF property, we capture TIF dollars, and so the assessed value being increased on that property benefits our redevelopment commission for obvious reasons. And it made sense to us at the time because also part of meeting the PUD is meeting what your comprehensive plan says about housing. And our comprehensive plan as well as our stellar plan all say we need more diverse types of housing and not just single family housing. And it's not just about attracting young residents. It's also because we don't have a lot of retiree flats or retiree housing. We don't have a lot of senior housing in Culver. So we thought it made sense from that standpoint. And that's what led us down that path. I also know the builder did not want to have commercial in that space on top of townhomes or condos because it would create more traffic. There used to be a very popular restaurant at that location. I was on the town council during that time. We didn't get a lot of complaints about traffic or even lighting when Mr. Cerisi put in lighting. So we weren't anticipating that something of a residential nature would increase traffic or parking. The old restaurant had some on-site parking, but there was also a lot of parking up and down Lakeshore, Lakeview, et cetera, when it was a restaurant. So I don't see the same issues, and that was one of our recommendations. And they followed that path for those reasons. And that's why I supported it going in that direction. And I do not want to see it as a C2 myself, because you could pretty much put up this building above additional commercial space now. And yes, in all cases, there's going to be setback requirements met. If you divided the land, you'd also be needing having setback issues, and if these were all done as R1s. I believe it's technically 4 parcels to combine. So currently, I'm not sure you'd have legal size lots to go an R1 route. And I agree with Mr. Mason that you wouldn't see a return on the investment that they have in the property. That's just my personal opinion, and I offer it as I offer it.
Anybody else have anything? I'm not gonna hold you there one time, but you can comment.
Jim Farmer, 225 Lakeview Street. I guess my comment would be, I don't see a 3-story townhome being senior friendly. So everybody says it's for seniors. I guess it can be, but that doesn't seem to make any sense. And then I was wondering if somebody brought up the fact that it was going to be in a TIF. Is that going to benefit the town of Culver any?
It's currently.
Yeah. It's currently.
Is that going to benefit the town of Culver?
Yeah.
Because we've mismanaged it by over $500,000 that we lost revenue on tips. So I don't understand.
The town has not lost the $500,000 in TIF dollars.
Well, there's been a presentation about this.
We have a study that was done, and you can talk to Baker Tilly about it. We spent about $20,000 to find out that we have properties we had to take out of the TIF that resulted in the $2,075 loss. Your redevelopment commission chairperson is here. That study is public record, and I can provide it to you.
Yeah, I have.
We can show that at a different time. This has nothing really to do. I mean, I appreciate that, but right now we need to deal for this because that's what the redevelopment committee and now it has nothing to do with this code.
Can I just comment on that? It's not a 3-story building, it's 2 stories.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 2 stories and it's well under the height of many of the homes surrounding it. In a PUD, you can go up to 45 feet. The Culver ordinance says that we're 26, 20. So we're almost 20 feet under what can be done there in a PUD. I don't know that I should even respond to this, but the people that want to purchase these and need assistance are putting in lifts. One or the other, not that that should matter. guys, but yeah, it is much shorter than many of the homes in that area.
I mean, the site plans and everything else is available at any time. Anybody wants to look at them, whatever, so. Anybody else?
Anybody in the hallway?
Is there anybody in the hallway that wants to speak or anything? Yeah, good idea. You?
Good.
Okay,
I don't have anyone else unmuting, it doesn't look like.
if not. I can, oh, got somebody there, but
I think that might be Buster. Not sure. There's no one unmuted though.
if not, I entertain a motion to close public hearing.
I motion that we close the public hearing. Second.
All in favor? Andrew?
We have to do roll call, okay.
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye. Aye. Joel, aye.
Dan, you said,
I said aye.
Dan Osborne said aye.
Aye.
Mr. McManus says aye. Chester Group? Chester, can you hear me?
Buster, you're muted. He's not unmuting.
Robert Cooper?
I think Robert has left the meeting. He may have gotten called.
Oh, yeah. And we do have a majority, so vote carries. All right. I'll start with you, Andrew, if you have anything as far as addressing anything that the public has to say or anything concerning the PUD or current zoning. What we're looking at is changing zoning from C2 to PUD.
I have no questions.
No. Mr. Miller.
Yeah, my biggest would be about the balcony.
Pardon?
My biggest would be about the balcony, the way they are. And the side views. That'd be my biggest.
How far do they come out
Sure
from?
what they're.
Yeah, I don't
they're
know.
like-
Don't know if there's
They're
another-
minimal, they're just for looks. They're
Yeah.
not balconies, they're just aesthetic for
I mean,
Juliet balcony.
it doesn't look from your plan that they're out over the sidewalk at all.
And like I said, it's a railing, it's fixed to the building, so if it needed to be adjusted, we could certainly adjust it. But it's,
Is that property line from the road or from the sidewalk? You know, the property line,
property
and the property line is
sidewalk.
by the sidewalk or the sidewalk, from the sidewalk.
It's, I don't know, probably at least 3 feet behind that,
Okay,
maybe more.
so we are looking at, you have front yard setback of, I think it says.
And that hasn't been approved.
Right. I'm just saying under design. Right
That
now,
became a consideration that it was, the balconies were out too far, we would either take them
Right,
back or
right.
take them off.
but I just want to know, according to plan, what would be the current site plan as proposed? You have it on here, far as from,
It's 5 feet.
Yes, we have foundation of the buildings at 5 feet from the sidewalk.
okay,
Balconies are not shown on the site plan. We are only showing the footings of the buildings.
okay.
They are shown on the site plan. If you look at the elevations on the east or a west side elevation or an east side elevation, you can see the protruding of the balcony on the north side of the building.
I think I just addressed that.
All right, Dan.
Yes,
Hawthorne.
I want to let it be known that, I was concerned that I might have a conflict of interest in this, because my in-laws who are in their mid-80s are interested in one of these units. So I conversed with an attorney and also our town attorney. And he assured me that if I did not have any personal gain in this, that I could vote. So I just want to make that known. Do you have any comment, Mr.?
No, I still have to, that you fill out the conflict of interest form on this particular thing that says.
Sure.
Your in-laws may have an interest in.
Right. Exactly.
If they were approved in it. So,
Thank you.
No other questions, Dan? Mr. Summers?
Mine is just waiting on the year from the ruling. I mean, I know it's not necessary because we didn't vote it down. We voted in favor of it. It just got negated by the courts. But just to clear it all, I'm waiting. I'm willing to wait a year.
All right. That's your comment. Anything else?
Nope.
Mr. Fox?
Yeah, I would just say, Joel, to your comment, I wouldn't make the judge's decision for him. I mean, it will not shock me if this does not end up back in front of the judge and let him do what he does.
Okay.
So I think, I don't agree with his first decision, but I'm just the commission secretary. But we didn't vote it down. In fact, we did just the opposite. We approved it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my understanding when an order vacates something is as though it just never happened in the first place. So just my comment, I guess, on your concern. This is really on anticipating a motion to come and the discussion that we had on primary and secondary review. So I'm looking at both you, Gary, and you, Jim, in terms of like, is this primary, because it was styled in the agenda as primary and secondary.
It was filed as what they wanted, but this is what it wants to come to. When we get to the actual, I mean, this, I don't know that you could consider it a primary because it's under the stipulation of the BZA.
Okay.
I guess I would recommend that if you're thinking about getting it on to the BZA, to do that, you would need to have a motion to, I guess, approve on a conditional basis. The
Right.
primary
Stipulations, conditions.
based solely on the fact that you're going to have, referral to the BZA for the development standards. Your ordinance has a number of review considerations. I'm assuming you guys are familiar with those. I'm going to follow all of those. In the court matter, what the argument was made on behalf of what you guys did before was that some of the same considerations that you are supposed to have considered are going to be the considerations that are now, made by the BZA, and that state statute really sets out that they're the ones that should do it. The judge didn't agree with our position that there wasn't a need for a variance until you actually did the rezoning. So I think probably from your standpoint, you can either, vote to, not approve it, and that'd be the end of it. Or if you want to do it conditionally, a conditional preliminary approval based on referral to the BZA.
So at this point, it would either be a non-approval or approval with conditions of results from, but even then with that result, there would be a review.
Has to come back. Right.
So just approval of the primary does not, the preliminary does not mean that it's approved all the way, because that's okay. Until it comes back.
Right.
All right. Reason I'm asking these questions because I'm a little bit, never been through this before as far as.
Well, the problem is you had a zoning ordinance said one thing, and you got state statutes that says a little different.
Yeah.
And we got
it's saying. And the judge saying something different too. Yeah. Other than what our ordinance did say, but. All right. Mr. Cooper's gone. Chester still on. I'd like to hear his comment. If he has any.
Mr. Gute, do you have any comments? And if you do, you have to unmute yourself. He's not.
Is he on there?
I think Bobby must have gotten a fire call because he's off.
Okay. Is Chester on there hearing us? Okay.
It looks like it. His name is still on there.
And as far as I'm concerned, as far as I do have concerns, I know that some of the things came up with the thing, and I was the same way when we were talking 20 cars. I don't know where everybody got the 20 car number. Because homes, so you're talking about residential, you know, you've got mostly two parking spots per home, even in a single family resident. If these are single family residents, they are still meeting the same requirement. We've got homes in town that don't even have driveways, and we've got some homes that only have one parking for the residential. And I mean, I know these are not issues really pertaining to this, but they do have 2 parking spaces per unit. And if they are residential, I don't see a problem with the traffic because we've addressed this issue under the same design. This is not the same meeting, but with their design and what issues we had with traffic, everything was met as far as changed for that. I know with Coolidge Street and Lakeview, with what you're talking before, you know, with the traffic. And as Mr. Monroe had said, you know, with the commercial building there at the time when it was City Tavern. And that is C2. And I guess I would want to ask the question, because we're going back to what C2 could build. But you're only talking about what you can see going on C2 that would be favorable for everybody. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% for this PUD, but I'm 100% against having the C2 there. I would rather see, because it's almost spot zoning, and for the comprehensive plan, it does not fit. And as far as whatever can be done, the options are wide open for C2. And definitely, I know you say, I mean, we had to comment that we know nobody's going to buy that and put whatever on there. We do not, as a planning commission, can base anything what probably will or could be or could not be. It's definitely what is, according to ordinances, that would allow it. And that's what you got to base it on. And that's what I base it on.
What would be the setbacks required for
C2? You'd have
it's 50 feet, right?
For C2,
On the,
50.
yeah,
Look back up for C2.
50 foot setback on front.
Well, whatever it is, but they still can apply for variance.
Yeah,
I agree. I do agree with that, but you're not going to literally give a 90% variance to put an Arby's in there. And that's not what you're suggesting as a kind of a potential alternative, right?
I'm not saying, I'm saying
But
you could have
the conversation about commercial property comes up a lot. But I don't see, that's passive aggressive, frankly, because one, if you're going to do anything, you got to live by the current setbacks. That's the starting point.
Exactly. And that's all we can deal with. But under a plan unit development, we only have to look at setbacks as what's required in the plan unit development.
Say that again.
I mean, I know we were talking about the setbacks for a PUD. And a 50 foot right now under the current ordinance for a PUD, it only says that it has to have a 50 foot back front yard setback. It doesn't talk about any side yard setbacks. It don't even talk about setbacks.
So lot width for a C2 needs to be at least 100 foot.
And so you can't have C2 in town. Is that what you're saying?
That would be the starting point, right? I mean, you'd have to basically give a variance of what 100% across the board there to fit that.
You would say it's
right?
non-buildable.
Yeah. Thank you. That's probably the easiest way of saying it, right?
Yeah. But if they went to the BZA,
So I do understand that, and that is the policy, and I think that's why the BZA serves a really good purpose. But the BZA has always supposedly, at least my understanding of talking with Danny and others, there's a hardship factor. So we have a lot of conversations in the BZA about people wanting to go from a 10-yard side setback to a 5-yard side setback, and you guys turn it down.
Right.
So now we're looking at going from 50 to 5, 50 to 0.
Right, but I just want to comment on this too. Everything that comes into the BZA that is applied, none of them set precedents for what the next
No, I
one's going to
understand.
be at the same
I
time.
understand, and that's good. That's what it
And
should
so,
be.
so
Yeah.
when you're talking about what's done there, their hardship
But what
is
would be
never the
hardship
same
here?
as the other.
What would be the hardship here?
You gotta take this.
I am not, yeah,
So I can't ask questions?
Well, you can, but it's just counterproductive.
it's
I
kind
don't
of,
know that it is.
You're making the same
well,
argument. that you're making.
everything that,
Mr. Clevenger, they keep saying that the alternative is a commercial building in there.
no,
And that's true, but it can't.
So when that conversation becomes part of this conversation, then my question about variances is appropriate,
I get it,
right,
right?
but
but take it to the BZA.
what I'm saying is right now, it is C2 right now.
You made your
And
point.
there's nothing being applied to be put on that C2 property right now.
Well, we keep hearing.
So, right, but I mean, I'm bringing it up because this is what the public has addressed. And in order for the C2, if we do not approve this, or and it wants to come up, but it hasn't came up at anything else. So right now, if this is denied, it's still C2. And then if the variance comes up, then it'll have to go to the BZA, and that's where you would want to address it. And then as far as the other thing, as far as the covenants, I know it was asked about the covenants, and I'm sure that this under a PUD, I think it is actually required under the PUD. So as far as to answer the question on the covenants, there will be. So as far as anything else, I mean, I know we discussed the cost of the units, and I know by now houses on both sides would bring more than 450,000 right now under the current thing. So saying that, this board never looks at the cost or whether the builder is going to be making money off of their investment. I mean, it's his decision whether he wants to make a bad decision or a good decision. In other words, well,
But the town manager has a perspective on that. She said she wanted to make sure that they could make money. She said that earlier in the meeting.
well, she's not on this board.
You did say that, Jenny.
I
I mean, we can play
commented on
the
the
tape back. You said in your initial conversation, you needed to work the position where the builder could make a.
All right, actually.
Mr. President, Mr. President, didn't you close the public hearing? I mean, this is gonna go on
That's what I was
forever.
gonna address right now, Russ, but thank you. You're just adding to it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gute did unmute himself, by the way.
Pardon?
Mr. Gute has
All right.
unmuted us.
Chester, do you have any comments?
No. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay,
No concerns? Address anything?
not this time.
All right. Guess this time, nobody has any comments or whatever. I do agree that if there is a motion, that it would be whichever one you want to do. If it is a motion to approve the rezoning to a PUD, we will have to have those conditions and everything binding of a BZA decision.
So Barry, that's something that I wanna clarify. I just wanna make sure. If we approve, it's under the stipulation that the BZA would take on the issue, and then they would make a decision.
Right.
If that decision is BZA grants a variance, it comes back to us. We make a decision as to whether or not it would go forward to the town council.
Correct.
But ultimately, town council.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up for the public, to let them know that when this moves, because that was another thing, I didn't understand how the judge ruled against our approval when we're not actually a total approving committee. We're a recommending committee. We approve it and town council decides. So it doesn't move forward until town council gets it. So with that said,
Actually, I was curious what you currently have in the covenants. Do we have anything?
Jenny has a copy of,
Okay. What are the basic bullet points?
This is a requirement of a secondary review.
right.
So
No, just
If it-
curious.
Yeah, no. Any information you can get, something over the.
It's got a statement of character, plan unit development, ownership statement, covenant agreement. And under that, it says the developer will be responsible for maintenance, repair, and replacement of the property and limited to the providing of maintenance, repair, and replacement of common areas, snow and ice removal upon the parking area, driveways between the garage and units, as well as sidewalks surrounding the property. Lawn mowing and landscape maintenance, if any, in all common areas around the residential building, garages, and parkway areas. Other matters with the property as they arise. Developer will provide these services until such time as the homeowners association becomes fully established, and responsibility for this will transfer to the association. Refuse will be collected in trash containers provided by the local waste management company, stored in a designated area for owners, on-site receptacles. Developers shall obtain insurance on the common areas, and the owners shall obtain insurance on the residential units. Insurance obtained by the owners in the residential units shall be adequate blanket all risk casualty insurance for the full replacement cost of the residential unit. Individuals purchasing individual units will be required to sign restrictive covenants that will govern the use, care, and maintenance of the property.
Thank you.
I think I also printed it as part of your site.
That's why I didn't see it.
Sorry.
Thank you.
This time, some more questions, I would entertain a motion either way, whatever.
A motion that we approve 2022 P100272 on the condition that it goes to BZA for approval in order to come back to us for a secondary.
Second.
And the PUD is the component to the PUD out of the C2.
Yeah.
From
From
C2
C2
to
Yeah.
PUD. Yeah.
C2 to PUD. So the wording is right.
Got it.
Any questions or discussion? If not, Mr. Ready?
I approve.
Mr. Miller? Mr. Osborne?
I approve.
Mr. Samuelson?
I approve.
Yes.
Mr. McManway approves.
Mr. Goode.
Mr. Goode? Can you hear me, Mr.? Okay. I'm about to
Bobby
cover-
texted me that he did get a fire run. So he
Okay.
didn't leave.
All right. So the vote be what? 6-1. 7-1.
700.
Okay.
So the matter will be referred to the BZA for scheduling of a hearing of for that body.
Yes.
Go on to the next.
Yep.
The next one's the Bonine property.
Yeah, this one's a hearing 2022 P100179. Application filed by Bonine Properties Trust Agreement to approve rezoning the property located at 114 Lakeshore Drive, Culver. Property is currently zoned R1. The property owners would like to rezone it to R2.
Why don't you hold up?
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Application filed by Bonine Properties Trust Agreement to approve rezoning the property located at 114 Lakeshore Drive, Culver. Property is currently zoned R1. The property owners would like to rezone it to R2 to reflect the usage of the property as a duplex, which has been in use for several decades. And I'm assuming what they're wanting to do is correct what has been wrong for years. And I know there's been several people have brought up the same issue over time. And would you like to address and?
Do we want
We need to open the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is public hearing. I'm all right.
Motion that we open public hearing 2022-P-100179. Roll call.
I approve.
All right. Mr. Miller.
I approve.
I approve.
I approve.
Yes.
Mr. Goot?
Aye.
There you go. All right, unanimous. Okay. Now, would you like to address this? Who's here
I am going to talk on behalf of Rosalie, and I'm sure she will help me.
And name and address.
Here, my name is Jennifer. I'm at 1209 Lincoln Street. And I am Rosalie and Jim's realtor on this property at 114 Lakeshore Drive. They have for sale at the time, and it's been a triplex, actually, for how many years? Since 1979. Zoned R1. It has definitely been a triplex, never been lived in as a single residence property. It's always been operated as 3 separate apartments.
Yeah.
And it's just at the point where you're wanting to correct that. As part of listing the property, we need to correct that zoning.
Yeah. I mean, under the usage that you had on the property since 1979, it would be grandfathered the whole time. I mean, as far as that goes. So you're actually right at this present time. But if you sell it, then I'm assuming that we'd no longer have to have it if it changed owners. Is that right?
You'd have to get a special.
You'd have to get a special use.
Jenny had contacted me and I said you either get a special use variance at BZA or you rezone it to what it's been used as at this time. To try to clean up the property, I suggested she go this route.
Yeah.
Because anyone looking at purchasing it sees it as it is and figures that's what it will continue to be.
Yeah.
A potential buyer who wants to continue renting those units wants to know they can do that legally without having issues. So that was.
That's always been a vague area and it's been kind of a bad area really for planning commission over the years. Because it always comes up when somebody else wants to do the same thing. And we don't want the president set from 1979 to show up on us now either. So I guess my opinion, I think correcting anytime something's wrong is a good thing, but anybody else has anything to say?
I did receive a letter on this one that I forwarded to you on email earlier. There are some property owners that have opposed it. And there's a letter that says to whom have been concerned, we the neighboring property owners to 114 Lakeshore Drive. They list the parcel number, opposed the petition filed to rezone the property from R1 to R2. The petition notification to rezone the property, it's noted that the property has been operating as a duplex. Violation of the building code zoning for several decades. Violation of the building code zoning without penalty for an extended period should not be justification for approval to rezone. The If the rezoning is considered approved, it will become precedent setting that operating in this manner is acceptable. The building on the property was constructed as a single-family residence. In recent years, it's been operated as a triplex, not a duplex, as alluded to in the proposal to rezone. In the current state, these subdivided units would likely not pass any current building code requirements for firewalls, egress, independent furnaces, et cetera, and create a hazardous and unsafe living environment. The last concern is that with the property is zoned as R2, allowing the operation of a duplex, the multifamily rental or ownership would detract from the value of the neighboring properties. In addition, there's high likelihood that if allowed, this building will become a rental property in one form or another, and the turnover could be frequent. As longstanding members of the community, we request that this property remains R1 as currently zoned and appreciate the consideration in this manner. Then there's a list of addresses and names. Renita Gage at 409 North Lake Street, William Matana at 411 North Lake Street, Stephen and Joanne Callahan at 413 North Lake Street, Thomas and Susan Wiley at 425 North Lake Street, Brad Smetana at 421 North Plymouth Street, Williams Matana at, I believe, the same address. It just says North Plymouth Street though, so I don't know if that's an unnumbered address. 204 Lakeshore Drive, Brian and Trini Brown, and Richard and Denise Einiker at 109 Lakeshore Drive. And then one of the gentlemen, Brian Brown, came in and signed the sheet. The others are listed. And who was on this particular letter sent in zoning for R1 and R2 as, and I think I sent that to you as well to point out what he didn't feel was right about the R2.
I have a copy of the letter. Thank you.
Can I speak further about that?
Yes.
Okay. So my understanding is that people who have opposed themselves do use their homes as Airbnbs and rent. And actually, I am a rental manager on one of those homes. And one of the families had expressed interest in buying the property to run it as a rental. Our feeling is that in that area, it benefits these young families coming in. It's a nice, central area to town. It's provided.
Many school teachers with a first time apartment, they could walk to school, they didn't have to drive. Yes, I admit they're not elegant apartments. I mean, they're not new.
And if you have someone buy and remodel, they're still very small. So we're not talking about huge number of people being able to go in. And I'll share what the buyer who is currently interested in the property is talking about, possibly just renting one of the units. He would like to keep one for himself, one for another family member, and then possibly rent the other just to have someone kind of watching the property, the eyes on the property.
Looking at the map, is that R2 anything? I mean, is it R1 and everything else around it? I mean, I don't.
The funeral home is right next door to it.
Oh, I guess that's right too now.
Here.
It's all R1.
It's all R1.
Even the funeral home?
Well, the funeral home's not R1. Nobody lives with it.
It is R2.
R2.
Oh, sorry.
And then you have the school.
Right.
Its own building.
Go ahead. You're that.
Oh, no, I was saying you have a few commercial buildings, I guess, down the way down there.
Rich West, 319 East Jefferson Street. I just wonder procedurally, if it goes from an R1 to an R2, is there then a building inspection to see that it meets the building requirements and code requirements for R2 for the safety concerns of the residents that are there?
I don't think there's a requirement for that at all under I mean, if it was built as a duplex, but what they're doing on R2 is still, it's not considered an apartment building, but it allows them still to do this under R2 ordinance.
I'm assuming if the buyer would remodel, that would all be right checked and, yeah.
I mean, if they do make separate apartments where they're completely boxed off from the other ones and stuff like that, in other words, they're considered apartments, then yes. The inspector, when they do that, would make sure they're, all right, Kevin, there would be a firewall, because I know I had to do that over at the rig.
Not for just a zoning.
If you're just using it for a zoning change, the zoning change would not require that, if that answers your question. Yes, state your name.
Tom Wiley. I live, one of the ones that oppose it. I'm sorry. But I live down here, this triangular one here. I've been here, Culver for 16 years. All the other colored ones, I'm right here. I've talked to your husband many years and I feel sorry I gotta sit next to him and talk. We oppose it just because we don't want to see it becoming like an Airbnb and having the frequent traffic. It's pretty quiet. We're right at the other end of Plymouth there. You know exactly where we're at. And it's been R1, a single family dwelling supposedly for over 30 years. Got no problem with it being that. We're all scared about what the future could hold for it and the community here. What is, you know, what you guys are trying to do with Culver here. This is like a stepping stone. And we don't want it to turn into something like what these two have going on, where they knock it down and have put up a big brick structure. It just wouldn't fit in.
Yeah, well, we won't go to talking about other people.
No, I'm just comparing,
Yeah.
you know, with that.
I'm gonna stick to the respect thing here.
Yeah, Brad and Bill looked at the house and they probably know more about it than I, but they couldn't be here. I asked, there were some other sheets that I don't have with me right now, but it shows the property line of this parcel. I'd ask that you look at that, just the way the property corners lay out with what's going on. Not that it's gonna have much to do with the zoning, but I want you to pay attention to where those really lay, as opposed to like on the street that's going on there, and then that part, I guess it would be the
I guess you
west property line. Goes in
I didn't mind.
to the Hall's parking.
No, that's not the. That person.
This way.
This property. It's been surveyed. You can see it.
Yeah.
That's why I would believe it.
Hold on.
Yeah, that's what you.
We need to keep it to one conversation.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
We're addressing the.
So. Do I got anything else? Bring to your attention. Yeah, like I said, is your decision here is gonna affect many families in the area about their little neighborhood. It's been a neighborhood. It is all over town. That's what we like. That's why we came here 15 years ago, to get away from our hustle and bustle in our city. And we enjoy it. I mean, we're here now in the middle of winter. We love it. I want to bring up, I know this doesn't pertain, but it seems to me that like 10 years ago, Cowan did development over by the Family Dollar. And you guys told them that those had to be owned and couldn't be rented as single family housing. So I'm just looking at that as this remains R1. I mean, it doesn't get changed. How we're going to look at that. I mean, since it's being operated as a free flat
Yeah.
now. And I'd like to take that into consideration.
All right.
Yeah, that's all I got to say. I just oppose it, and I just feel, you know, if anything's done there other than leaving the existing structure there, it's going to change the whole thing.
Thank you.
Mr. Wiley, just for the record, what was your address?
425 Lake Street.
Thank you.
Richard Latrell, over 9 Lincoln Street. From what I'm hearing, this has been a triplex since 79, right?
It isn't triplex or duplex. What are we? Okay.
So anyone who bought houses at 79 knew it was a triplex when they moved in. If they didn't know it was a triplex, it's their fault for not knowing it's a triplex. For them complaining that it's going to change the neighborhood is basically wrong, because they should have known it was a triplex when they went by, because there's a sign in front of it that says Lakeshore Apartment. So it's not like it's been hid in the back.
Yeah.
The secrets of Culver for all these years. It's been out there for everyone to see.
But the zoning of R1 and not R2.
What?
Since 97, I didn't know about until November 21st when I got this letter. So.
But you knew it was an apartment.
I knew it was an apartment though.
I just asked a question. I mean, how bad is it there now that by changing zoning kind of affect that?
If the existing structure stayed there and it stayed a 2 or 3 flat like what was being proposed right here, that I guess wouldn't change very much. But their property stuff, I think you guys should really look at and get that corrected. And then as far as the zoning, I mean, and this gentleman brought up about someone coming in and inspecting it, prior. The building is in rough shape and that needs to be done. That's under your control.
No.
That's right. I would say that's a real estate issue.
It is a real estate issue on that part.
Right.
And even if somebody wanted to come in and knock it down, I think it already doesn't conform, doesn't it? It's more than.
Right now, it wouldn't.
But that's what I'm saying is, if they knock it down, they'd have to build on the exact same footprint. So if you're afraid of a large structure coming in, they'd have to go through the whole process.
And what I'm bringing up is I don't think they could rebuild on the existing footprint because they built where they probably shouldn't have years ago.
Well, that's another issue.
Yeah, back then.
We won't get into that. We're not going into that. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Public have anything?
Can you hear me online?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Brad Smetana at 421 North Plymouth. I just had a couple comments. The request for variance to rezone the building as a duplex based on the concept that it's been that way for decades or that the neighbors should have known is just simply not justification to approve a variance for a structure that has successfully ignored zoning. We need to ask ourselves, what's there to gain as a community for rezoning this? It doesn't comply with almost any of the R2 zoning standards, let alone most of the R1 zoning standards, including minimum lot area, minimum lot width, minimum front and side setbacks, maximum impervious lot coverage. I mean, I can go into everything if you'd like, but I won't waste everyone's time. I mean, the lot size is 6,500 square feet. 6,500 square feet. That's to knock the house down and build new. You couldn't do it. You need 7,500 square feet.
Right.
Yeah,
The children just asking the question here. They're asking for a rezoning from R1 to R2. And so where the building's standing and how big and how little right now is not an issue.
Correct. Correct. I'm just, so essentially what
but
I'm sorry.
Yeah, honestly, we will look at, for what it was, it's R1 and what they've been doing for 40 years, 30 something years, 38, 40, whatever it is. But under that, because they were doing it prior to some of these ordinances that were written as far as what was allowed on R1, R2. And with that said, we have to look at far as what R2 is going to do for impact to other properties and things like that. So, there's more than just say, yes, we just do that. So we are going to look at these things.
Right. Just a couple more comments there. The zoning standards, obviously, they were put in place there to make sure there's adequate living space, right? To promote a healthy and stable environment, as it's stated there in the zoning standards. This property doesn't do that. It doesn't do either of those things, and it just doesn't fit. Accepting this variance from R1 to R2, when it doesn't even meet an R1 standard, would essentially be turning our back on the entire zoning and setting precedents that it's just a suggestion and not a requirement. It's understood that the home's up for sale now, which is likely why it's in front of the commission here tonight. If anything, honestly, now's the time to make it wrong or right and keep zoned as an R1. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Can I say something else?
Yeah.
Can I comment?
Hold on just a second.
I guess I'm confused when he's saying it's not in good standing right now. It's operated as one or two people rent.
We're really not concerned on that,
Okay.
honestly. I mean, that right there's just not the issue.
Well, that's not really fair either. I mean, there's one furnace for 3 people and 3 units. If one person's hot, everyone else is hot. I mean, that's not true.
There's 2 furnaces, but.
Okay.
3 units.
Okay, 2 to 3.
But we have to look at this at the same time, but.
I know, I just feel like I'm being dismissed a little bit, and that's just not accurate.
No, I'm not trying to dismiss you. I mean, if you've got an issue why this should not be R2, why it should be R1, which you did state that, and I do appreciate that. But if there's anything else that you have to come in, I'm willing to hear that, but as far as arguments, as far as whether the house doesn't fit, whatever, if it doesn't fit R1, then we're not gonna make it C2.
I think someone else. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, and I do appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think somebody else on.
Yeah, this is Bill Smetana, William Smetana at 411 Lake Street.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
I did look at that building in consideration of purchasing it. I passed on it. That building, there's no way that that building was built as a duplex. That building was built as a single family residence. It was chopped up subsequently. So when the real estate agent says that, that's blatantly a false statement. As far as all the code violations, I guess you just wiped that off the table. I don't know why, but is that what I'm hearing? It just doesn't matter.
Not for this meeting.
Not for this meeting, it doesn't, no.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't address that part. The only thing we're addressing is zoning. If they ever do what they're doing, they're gonna have to meet some standards somewhere.
This is the time to bring it back to its original state and make it a better fit for the neighborhood, single family residential neighborhood. That's how it was built. It was subsequently chopped up in the interest of profit. And that's quite frankly why we're here, because it's being sold for a profit and the buyer more than likely isn't interested unless he can turn a profit.
I appreciate that.
That's it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I do appreciate the information, seriously.
I would like to say something, and it's probably doesn't apply.
Name,
address.
Name and address.
Legal 9, 710 Red Sunset Avenue.
Thank you.
We've owned that house many years. It was originally a one home. Then it was a business. It's been 2 doctors' office, and it's been a dentist office. They built the side on for the offices, the examining rooms, and that we call it the trailer apartment. It's the one that's built on the side. I mean, it's got a concrete floor. We do rent that as an apartment. But that's been many, many years ago. That's important.
Well, it's information that a lot of the public can hear this as far as basing their opinions on something else too.
I'll just support Jennifer Luttrell again. I'll support Rosalie that it's when they're saying it's all R1 around there, it hasn't been. You have the funeral home and you have this that's in a doctor's office. And
right, but I mean, you're talking about businesses and stuff that's in there, and they've been there for how many years as well?
3 years.
So I appreciate that, but we can't be looking at whatever is there that's been there same length of years. You're wanting to rezone and they're not. So, Kevin, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah. Kevin Berger, 8886, State Road 17, Plymouth.
I'm just clarifying for my own information, I guess. You're saying that if it sells and continues as the same use, it's in violation?
I'm not sure on that. And I kind of, when I said that, it was almost like I put a question mark.
Because this is the same issue that came up with.
It's the same issue.
Fence.
Yeah.
You know, Jeanette Cerisi, your other attorney, has said that nothing can be done on that because of the change of ownership, and it's been like this, and it stays like this, and it goes forward.
And
So I'm
that's
questioning why a rezoning is required if it's continuing in the same use. Somebody buys it, continues it as a triplex, they should be able to continue that forward because it has been grandfathered in and it's
Right.
continued in the same use.
And I was looking to the ordinances as far as what that, and there's nothing in there that says one way or the other that I can find. And I don't know if you looked, you know, or not. I haven't found where it's a violation one way or the other, you know, when it is. And this was something I've been looking at for years because I felt like if it's in violation, you can't sell it in violation.
We talked about it
But-
before, if it's a change of use.
Change of use.
Something else, that becomes different.
That
But
becomes
if you
different.
Keep it as a triplex, then it's not a change of use.
Exactly.
And it's continuing forward.
And
Now, if
that-
they try to
that's
remodel
been
or
past
anything, That's a different animal, but I would assume if I were to buy it and continue to operate it as a triplex, I'm not in violation. I am continuing the same use.
Right.
But if somebody buys it as a second home apartment and has one apartment that they lease out, they are taking ownership of it, but they're also leasing one section of it out. So does that change the use because it's your summer home / rental unit for somebody else?
In my, you're asking me a legal question, in my opinion, it's still three residences.
Yeah.
So it hasn't changed the use by doing
Yeah.
that. Now, if they go in and start chopping it up and changing it, then they're getting a building permit and they've got to do all those things. But if it stays as the triplex with three residents, it hasn't changed use.
Yeah, if they start construction to do whatever to change that, then they'd be trying to do something in a R1.
And I don't see this one as spot zoning because of the funeral home next
No.
door to it. It is adjacent as opposed to one that's just like out in the middle. It's the only R2 with R1 all the way down. It's
Exactly.
a little different.
Yeah.
So
I
this
have
would be
another
like-
question. I have a question. This is Bill Smetana again. So grandfather, I'm hearing is, the violations are grandfathered from one owner to the next.
It's
If
not-
that's the case, well,
It's not.
that's kind of what I'm hearing, that it doesn't matter that it's in violation, as long as they continue to not change the structure and continue to operate it in the same manner as it was previously operated, which was in violation of the zoning, right? Now, if that's
But
the
it's
case, why are we even here?
Because they want to ask for a rezoning to R2 is why we're here.
Yeah, well, so they need to, yeah. So
Yeah.
I go back to my question.
Well, you'd have to ask them at a different time, I guess, because they applied the application.
They feel that they need to rezone this to R2 because of the violations on R1.
They feel that they should correct it, is what they presented to the planning commission.
I think we're mixing at least apples and oranges and maybe other fruits as well. I mean, we're talking about potential issues of
Yeah,
building.
I mean, as far as potential and all that
building
stuff,
code Versus.
Yeah. And we're not gonna be looking
and-
at
and
potential,
this-
what
this
somebody
body
can do.
Deals with is land use.
You're 100% right.
We don't get into load bearing walls and
Yeah.
any of that stuff. It's just not within the purview of this commission or within the zoning ordinance.
Right.
No setbacks, none of that.
Well, setbacks are land use, so, you know, we start talking about furnaces and other stuff, but it's not what we do. No, and that may be upsetting, but it's not what we do. It's not what we're legally empowered to do.
Well, how about the setback issue? What did you say about that? You don't deal with that either?
No, not right now. Not on this property. They're not building a new house. They're not building
Adding an
anything,
addition.
so nothing being added or taken away. So, no, we don't address that. And if they were building something, it would be to the BZA. It wouldn't be this board either. So that is out of our
Just one last comment from me, Brad Smetana. I mean, if we know that something's in such violation of what the expectation is for zoning is R2, why is it such a, why are we even having this conversation? Leave it as R1.
Well, that is your opinion. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
This is Russ. It's
Very
it's not an opinion, it's a fact. You just discussed the fact that, and Kevin brought it up. It's been in violation of the zoning for a long time. And as long as it's continued to be used that way, it's grandfathered. There's no justification whatsoever to rezone it. You're creating a spot zoning for no reason at all.
Well,
Yes.
it's not necessarily spot zoning, but I appreciate your opinion. Thank you. Any more comments from the public? Anybody online? Any more?
Just my last comment, it sounds like you're just gonna go down this road and I feel that this is precedent setting.
I don't understand.
Well, why don't I just, this is Bill Smetana again, why don't I just go ahead and in violation of the zoning laws right now, just go ahead and chop my house in two and go ahead and run it as a duplex, and then maybe sometime down the road I want to sell it, and then I'll come to you and say, hey, let's go ahead and make that an R2. I've been doing this for 5 or 10 years.
If you do that now, under the ordinances, you're violating the ordinance on your own. And you will be fined and you'll be forced to change it.
I think we've reached the end of a productive conversation.
Yeah.
I'd like to move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor to close public hearing.
Second.
In a second. On favor, Mr. Andretti? I was ready.
To close?
Huh?
Yes.
To close. Mr. Miller?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Chair votes yes. Chester?
No,
No. What do you think? No? That's still closed. All right.
What's that? Chester, did you vote not to close the public hearing?
pardon?
Did you vote to not close the public hearing? I just want to clarify.
No, yeah, close the public hearing, yes.
There you go. All right.
Thank you.
All right, I'm
Thank you.
sorry. I didn't hear
Okay.
it correctly.
Yeah, my
Also,
fault.
it's not so good.
All right. I'll start out. I mean, if Jenny, if you have a comment this time, I would entertain that for the board because you're the building commissioner as well.
Yeah.
And
I was just trying to help the people who were questioning these, cleaning up the properties. We've had some properties operate a certain way for decades, and I was just advising them to go one way or the other, or get a BZA for a variance of use. Either way, they're making an honest effort to clean it up.
right. Okay. I will start out the comments on this because I know under the issue, normally I would be 100% for you. And that being said, I guess you know what I'm gonna say, but it's been continuing for the month, and you can continue that as long as you own it and if you sell it. But I feel like you're coming before this board at this time to sell it. In other words, R2, you could sell it and actually profit from the rezoning or whatever, when you can continue doing what you're doing right now. I'm not saying that you are. I just feel that now that you came up that you're trying to sell it and you're still going to be continuing doing the same thing when you sell it, then what is the purpose of, just like he said, I mean, I do feel the same way. You can continue doing what you're doing. And I don't see where it would be any advantage by changing to R2. That's just one opinion. I mean, I'm not a voting authority here. I just got one vote. Going around, Mr. Stratty, have you got?
I'm not really sure what to think on this.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I'm really kind of confused and quite honestly, I can see both issues. I understand the idea of it being grandfathered. And so I guess maybe part of me feels like just continue to have it be grandfathered. Then the idea of trying to clean up some issues is something that we've talked about in the past. So I'm not really sure what to do on this. I'd like to hear my colleagues' opinions.
Mr. Miller?
Yeah. I don't know. But it's more for the non-conforming or to try and fix things, but obviously it's probably for the purchaser's well-being, that they want to feel like they can continue, and that would be something that made them feel better. Because there's a lack of rules. I don't know, it's a little bit of a mess.
Sound like the board feel the same way.
I kind of agree with what you said and Kevin said, that it's been grandfathered in, and why change it at this point? Just leave it the way it is. They want, they can come in front of BZA or do whatever they're gonna do.
I kind of feel the same way. The only thing I would kind of lean towards is it's a difference between a purchaser and a person wanting to sell, is just as long as the person buying it feels that it's up to code and it does pass stuff, leave it as is. I've had several people that were young and have lived in those apartments, so I've seen people grow out of them too. So I understand the service they are to the community. So.
I have a technical question.
Sure.
So if someone wanted to purchase it and continue operating it with 3 apartments, and they want to improve the property, renovate or improve it, it's obviously an aged property. They're gonna have to get a permit, and it's gonna go to Ty Adley as an R1, and he's gonna go, why is this
Exactly.
an R1? It's grandfathered or not, they're gonna have to go through a permit process if there's work done on it.
You tear down the rental property, it no longer exists.
For a buyer or seller to,
And not just
Right.
tear down, but not.
yeah, if it's gonna go through that process.
It's a matter of permitting is basically the biggest thing. It's not selling it. It's if somebody wants to clean it up, not build
Right.
on it.
I live in a 4,800 square foot house right now that is R1, and it's R1 its entire lifetime. If I go to renovate it and turn it into a duplex or a triplex, it's gonna get halted during the permit process.
Right. And you
I
would have
don't
to,
know that the permit people realize it's operating that way all this time, I guess is what.
but the zoning
It's
is.
one family that
Yeah.
doesn't really like each other. They don't- One family that doesn't really like each other, they're walled off.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Just saying, I don't know that it would go through, you can say it's
Well-
grandfathered, but the permit system doesn't say it's.
Right.
grandfathered.
Yeah.
It's nowhere on a deed, it's nowhere.
Right.
The appraisers don't say it's grandfathered
Right.
unless you're paying cash.
So technically, I'm just putting that out.
But you're right. I mean, under the permit situation, it will. I mean, under R1, you're gonna be asking for remodel on the R1, which I know you could probably be shady enough to get by with it if you're whatever. You're still building under the same roof and whatever. You're not telling the inspector what you're doing. I don't know. I mean,
I
am
don't
I right,
know how
Kevin?
you grandfather.
You could
a
actually-
property, I guess.
As far as grandfathering what they're doing, I mean, right now, because it's pre-time and how long it's been, I mean, as long as you don't, go ahead, Kevin.
And then I'd like to say something too.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wouldn't try to avoid you. I know I just kind of got sidelined.
It's the difference between remodeling and rebuilding. Change it to R1, they're right, you could rebuild something on there as townhomes or whatever else, and you're opening it up to that if you want to do that.
If they tear that down, they would have to build it as R1 as a single family home. If they go in and remodel it, they'll get like an electrical permit, they'll get like a HVAC permit, but they won't be getting a new structure permit. So you're painting drywall and stuff. If they go and start changing walls and stuff, then they're gonna have a problem. But if they keep it the way it is now, then it wouldn't normally be a problem.
Right.
And it should be something that carries through from your decision tonight. If you guys are saying it's grandfathered, it's in the minutes, they can continue that, and that becomes their document that it is grandfathered in as it is now going forward.
Right.
A buyer would have that assurance.
Yes. Because it's
For the
in there.
minutes.
We
From
don't,
the minutes, I mean, if it is grandfathered, so, I mean, we're using that word, but as a term, because you don't find it other than non-conforming lot of record is what, same thing as what grandfather, whatever, but as far as what your usage on that, you've already, this is the practice that we've had. You know, you're using as that for how long? I mean, we looked and I think there's probably 3 in town that do that. Have been doing it forever. But. Okay, Don.
So I think not approving this penalizes the Bonines for trying to do the right thing. For 43 years, how many people at this table knew that this was R1? Certainly didn't know. It says an apartment. I just assumed it was R2. So yeah, the lot's non-conforming. So is 80-90% of the lots in town. That's another issue for another day.
Right.
But for 43 years, multiple families lived in this building, which predates the zoning ordinance. And to zone it for what it really is, and to come back to a point that Jenny has made repeatedly, the current comprehensive plan calls for a variety of housing. Now, I know that to some people that is spot zoning, and the word spot zoning appears nowhere in the comprehensive plan. So it's an apartment that sits next to a commercial operation, a funeral home. I do not see why we would not support rezoning this to R2 to, make legal what's been going on for nearly half a century.
Right. I mean, it's still legal right now.
So.
Under R1.
And I think that it also would penalize them economically to a considerable degree if we decline that request, because prospective buyers are looking at this as an ongoing, triplex and apartment building. Now, however, a prospective owner intends to use this, if they're going to, move all their family into all the units and not collect rent, well, so be it. But that's not our concern either.
Yes, sure.
Yes, if the property is zoned R1, it's been grandfathered in and used as exactly the same way. And we approve an R2. Any change whatsoever, whether the property is sold, additions made, etc., if it's not used exactly the same way, would automatically revert back to R1. In other words, there's no change in the use of the property or the sale of the property. Has to be used exactly the same way it has been, which is what I consider grandfathered. And any change on that would keep it R1. Would revert back to R1 automatically. Put that right in because what we're doing here is spot zoning.
They tried to put up a different type of building, they'd have to be setbacks in an R2 and it would go back before BZA. So there's a protection there for a different building usage.
BZA has a bite at the apple no matter what, just because of setbacks.
All right. Thank you, Chester.
That's
All right. Any more Jimmy, anything?
I just encourage you to stay focused on the application,
There you go.
what you're trying to do.
Yep. All right, this time, entertain a motion.
A motion to approve 2022 P 100179.
Second.
To rezone
Rezone.
from R1 to R2.
R2.
Okay.
Bonine Properties. Sorry, I thought I just needed to give you the type.
For public as well and for recording.
I apologize.
I'll second.
Got a first and a second. Mr. Strutty?
Aye.
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 No.
Aye. And just clarify, this is a recommendation to the council, to town council to rezone.
Exactly.
Okay, just for the.
Chester?
Yes, is that with the recommendation that it reverts back to R1?
No.
With any changes?
It's only to change from R1 to R2.
And then if any changes are made,
It'll be other R2
That'll be the
zoning.
It would be under R2.
It'll be by anything for R2 after we rezone it for R2. It'll no longer be looked at as R1.
no.
Okay. Motion carries.
Motion carries. 5-2. All right, moving forward. Quick, right? Public hearing. See, what, we take a small break if anybody wants to break, because take a 5-minute break or whatever. Anybody need to get, huh?
No, let's get this over with.
Okay, I just want to make sure we. All right,
2 more to go. Let's go.
all right. Public hearing 2022-P-007. Application filed by Richard and Jennifer Luttrell to approve rezoning the property located at 810 South Main Street, Culver. Property is currently zoned R1 with a special use for a duplex. The property owners would like to rezone it to R2 to reflect the R2 duplex usage. So you want to do away with the special use.
Because when we first
Same
bought the
thing.
property, we were told that
We need to open the
bought it.
public hearing.
Hold on.
Oh,
A motion, let me open the public hearing.
Thank you.
2022.
I second.
Thank you.
Okay. How we need to vote?
Aye.
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 Sure. Chester?
Thank you.
Okay, do I need to reread this or we want to just go ahead?
That's regret.
Okay. Good then. All right. Any commissioners have any comment?
What? So, can we open now? Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
We voted.
Sure.
It's open.
Okay.
I forget to vote. You forgot we voted. Okay.
Okay.
Andrew, is there anything? Hold on.
No.
Who we got there? Chester?
I have the same comment as before. If anything
Okay.
changes, the property is sold. Any changes made, making it a more of a rental unit, or it reverts immediately back to R1.
No. Once you change zoning, it doesn't inadvertently change back at any time.
Well,
Right now, they're zoned R1 and they have a special use for a duplex.
Okay.
And they're wanting to change it, or change it from R1 to R2, and they won't need a special use.
why?
just
Uh,
to
clean
keep
it
it,
up. Yeah.
to clean it up so that if we ever sell it when I die, then it would automatically be able to go without someone coming back in here and saying, can you please change my duplex to a duplex so I can buy it? That's what I want to do.
Your name is?
Richard Luttrell, 1209 Lincoln Street.
Got it.
Barry, this is Russ. I have a question.
Well, all right, I wasn't really addressing the public yet, but go ahead, Russ.
You said you said there's a special use variance. There's no such thing in a. Is there? I thought I looked it up and I didn't think I saw
Well,
anything. Yeah.
this was the option that they just gave Bonines, was either have a special use and keep it R1 or go to R2.
Believe you guys.
But I don't know that that's permitted in the ordinance to have a special use, is it?
They went before BZA before to get that.
Got a special use?
Bought the property, we had to go before.
According to them, Russ, they got it from the BZA.
The ordinance, when did the ordinance get changed?
That's a $90 million question.
The ordinance doesn't permit a special use for that.
Oh,
No, has it really?
yeah, was it a bed and breakfast? I'm looking under special uses for R1.
It was a duplex. It's, When the prior owner bought it, it was a duplex. She had to get carry on that special. So when she sold it to us, told us to do the same thing.
Okay.
Did you look at it, Jenny, when they were asking about that before? The Bonines, as far as the special use? I mean, that was said earlier that
Yeah, I thought they had to rezone. So that's the advice I was giving.
we were saying rezone because they couldn't get a special use.
When I looked at it, I didn't see duplex there or triplex.
Okay.
But I assume you can still go before the BZA. And if it's not there, ask. There's lots of stuff not there. They ask for it, BZA variances.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can get a bed and breakfast in R1.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Bed and breakfast, lodging, special use for R1. Right?
We're a funeral home.
A bed and breakfast implies breakfast.
Bed.
It doesn't imply two families living in the building. That's not what a bed and breakfast is. So, yeah, that's stretching it. I'm sorry.
That's good.
So
I appreciate it.
I'm just gonna say, it is 9:02.
Yeah, I know.
The request for the Luttrells is not to do a deep dive into the history, but whether their property is gonna be rezoned from R1
Correct.
to R2. So I would personally like to hear from the Luttrells.
Okay.
Okay, so we purchased this property in August of 21. From Pam Baker, who had operated it as a duplex for years. And she had purchased it from a duplex owner as well. And when we purchased it from her, she said, you just have to go and continue this special variance. We operated as a duplex. We have a renter on one side and a couple on the other. One side is a 1-bedroom. And there's a single man there who's a counselor at the academy, and the other side is Amber Hall and her fiance. It's a 2-bedroom. There's parking in the back. There is some parking in the front. It sits right across from the garden court. I don't think it's a detriment to anything around here.
Right. I know what you're saying.
Always been.
I have not received any letters on this one.
Okay. All right, now Chester, are you done with what you were saying? You have anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Any more from, we'll go to the public then, unless nobody else up here has anything else to add. All right, I'll take anything from the public. No comments? Oh, Sally?
I don't know if I should comment since I'm on the board, but I would think if it's being used as a duplex and they want to have it zoned correctly, it's been used that way for 20 or 30 years. That should correct the error.
Yeah.
Anybody online?
Anyone online to comment? I don't see anyone unmuted.
Anybody else has anything?
Motion to close. Public hearing. A second.
Got first and second to close. Mr. Strady?
Yes.
I agree. Right. Close the public hearing, aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Chester?
Aye.
All right. That's been done for decades, just like the other.
My motion that we go ahead and rezone from R1 to R2. Duplex usage.
Second.
First and second.
Aye.
Mr. Miller? Osborne? Anderson? Manway? Aye.
Aye.
Chester?
No.
Nope. Okay. All right. We'll have each one of these could be letters to the recommendation to the town council, except for the,
Yeah, one more list.
yeah, I know. I was just letting know.
Give me the order, boss. I'll open up public hearing.
There was a final vote on that.
It was 7-1-0. Sorry, 6-1-0.
Moving forward. Got public hearing 2022 P 100281. Application filed by Stevens and Karenheim to approve rezoning property located at 217 South Ohio Street, Culver. Property is currently zoned R1. Property owners would like to rezone it to R2 to reflect the uses of a two-family home. Now I'll entertain a motion for the public hearing.
I motion that we go ahead and open the public hearing for 2022 P 100281.
Second.
Now, second. Mr. Strady.
Aye.
Ms. Miller.
Aye.
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 Mr.
Aye.
Good.
Aye.
Now. Karen, would you like to address?
I apologize for being the last one. I really want to make it before Christmas. So.
We apologize for being here.
Make it quick.
Yeah. So, yes, yeah. So our house, when we purchased it, there was a long story short, there was a house originally 2 owners ago, added a section on for a daycare. It's about 1,600 square feet. People we bought it from, it turned it from a daycare into an apartment. It fell into disrepair. We renovated it, turned it back into an apartment. But it's technically a mother-in-law suite because there's a door between a laundry room and their master bedroom or their master closet. At some point, my daughter is currently living there, but at some point, when they move out, we would like to be able to rent it out and we would like to close that off. And so that would take away that mother-in-law suite technicality. And just as the other, with the other cases this evening, just wanted to maybe get ahead of it and ask you to rezone to R2, so that it's not an issue in the future. I don't see anyone really putting that into our house. And currently in our neighborhood, there's at least a couple of houses that rent out. There's a duplex on the corner, the opposite side of the street, opposite side of the block from us. There's the Methodist thrift shop, and across the street, it was new construction. And I believe those people are renting out the top floor, and then they're living when they're in town on the lower level. So I'd ask your consideration to rezone our.
The only question I have is, currently it's somebody you know living there right now. Is the parking enough for everybody? If you would have somebody who, say it's a 2-car family that moves in?
So far, currently it's a 2-car. They have 2 cars.
Oh. Okay.
What is the zone on that block? R1, the whole block is?
I'm not sure.
Because I mean, I know that if you're saying across the street, whatever, those gotta be R2, but and I'm assuming, and I kind of learned not to assume anything. You said 30 minutes in the book.
Karen, I'm sorry, how many, are there two cars attached to the apartment now? I just wanted to catch that. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for the petitioner? We used to have.
I should be able to get some printed out. Everything's up to date.
Dan, you have anything? I have nothing.
I don't either.
Chester?
I did not receive.
No.
any-
Nothing.
So you don't have anything other?
No
to-
letters from this property either.
Okay. Do you have any comments about this or?
I see this a lot like the other two, that it's been used that way. And we were trying to clean it up.
I see this as a petition to change it to R2 so she can, which that's normally the process. So
So we're about 30 years ahead of every other one we did tonight.
right. I mean,
Well said, Joel.
yeah. I mean, she's wanting to do what they did. All right. Any other discussion? Entertain.
The audience. Anything from the audience?
More from the audience? Entertain a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Got first and second, starting around. Mr. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Great.
Mr. Osborne, Mr. Emerson,
To close it.
Chair votes
Aye.
to close.
Aye.
And Chester Good,
No.
you don't want to close the public hearing? Chester, we're voting to close the public hearing.
Oh, yes, close the public hearing, yes. Excuse
All
me.
right. On your word, we will. Thank you.
Audio is bad.
I know, and I'm probably not loud enough for you. Any discussion? No discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I motion that we go ahead and approve the ordinance to change it from an R1 to an R2. Second.
In a second. All in favor, Mr. Struddy?
Aye.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, we're voting. Public speaking is over with. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Osborne.
Aye.
Aye, Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Goot.
No.
Okay. 6-1. Approved.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let you say whatever you want to say. Oh, I thought you were going to, okay. I thought you had a question. I thought, well, before we do, maybe we ought to hear something. Yeah. Okay.
Never looking out here.
All right. Next thing is a TRC review.
You have those. You can read them at your leisure. There's 3 sets for you at this meeting. I do not have a final report for the year. I'm waiting on the county. I'll get it in January. And Merry Christmas, and that's all I have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if everybody read those and Don, you have those and then we can actually get a copy for the book
Thank you for coming in tonight.
with the minutes. And I was gonna sign these, but we're not gonna sign until next meeting. Okay, old business, new business?
I'm old. What's new?
I'm new, what's old? Okay. You had mentioned something about the property at the trailer court, the old trailer court.
After what?
You know, used to be the trailer court, the property there, you was talking about, somebody was talking to you about.
Oh, potentially, I've had some inquiries about tiny homes.
Yeah.
Culver would never allow that, and I said I would bring it up to you for a discussion at another time.
Yeah. But I just want to keep it on your minds. This is what,
Coming down the pipe.
coming down the pipe.
Quick question, what is tiny? Like under how many square feet?
We don't have a definition in our ordinance.
We've got a minimum
I saw there's
on
like 1,000
R1
feet.
ordinances, huh?
There's like 1,000 foot.
But manufactured homes is the smallest we've got, I think.
But tiny home would be manufactured.
So we could create something.
That's
Yeah,
what we're
if
looking
you-
at.
If you were open to it, yes. We currently don't have anything like that to be able to say, yes, you can do tiny homes on this size lot or whatever. And there's been an inquiry about doing that.
There's got tiny home, you might want 8-foot setbacks to it. 10 foot. I'm just throwing it out there, but you know, just different things that you might want to look at.
Yeah.
And that's all I had as far as,
Work session.
we can have a session on that as well. Any more old or new business? Any more old or new business?
Don't forget, if your term is expiring, and get your letter in, Karen, if you've got to take care of any of that. I don't know what positions are open this
I was
year
gonna say, do we know?
or expired.
Who's expired?
How would I?
I'm expiring on BZA. He's expiring BZA.
Oh, okay.
Chester is the only one on the planning commission,
And then I
I
think
think.
January, you'll have to reappoint Dan to the BZA because his expires, but it's a plan commission appointment.
Which
So
is,
he's willing to do it again.
if I'm willing to do it.
Anybody else?
If I'm willing to,
Yeah.
you may not be, you might want to, and I might
This is
let
a
you.
short meeting.
Okay, let's go again. All right, anything else? Building commissioner report.
I just want to thank you for your volunteering to be on this board. That's it.
Thank you. All right. Citizen input.
Basically,
Sorry.
We didn't bring darts, so you're safe right now, but
Anyone online have citizen input?
commission members' concerns and input, moving on. None. I entertain a motion.
Oh, hold on, I didn't say. anything. I just wanted to say Merry Christmas and Jenny, thank you for all the service over the years. That's it.
I'm still hoping for the,
Oh, you want to close it?
no, I'm talking about Jenny. I don't want to see her leave,
Yeah.
but she knows that. All right, I'll entertain a motion at this time then to adjourn.
Move.
We got a motion on the floor.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. We won't have to do it. Everybody, aye.
Oh, yeah.
Merry Christmas, Chester.
Thank you.